Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Central Europe. I hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend, staying healthy, staying strong. Hi Janiel, welcome members. This is a members chat class. Everybody is welcome to watch. In fact, it's a good idea to watch because we will be focusing on speaking part 2, and in the next class in 90 minutes, we will do speaking part 3, and everybody can join that class. That will be an all chat class. To become a member of our channel, you just need to click the join button next to the subscribe button. If you don't see that button, you can always send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and I can help you further. Of course, this lesson, as usual, is presented by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out there. For the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. And on both of those websites, you can use the code R4TYJ to get a 20% discount. Our websites have speaking practice for students for free. All you need to do is create a My Student account by clicking the big red button to join the premium package or the green button to try it for free. The general IELTS is with the green background, and you can do student peer speaking practice there as well. You can also book practice mock interviews with me and other professionals. You can click that big red button to join us there, or the green button as well to try it for free. Hi Abhishek, hi Nick Hill, welcome into the class. So definitely a good idea. We are an official British Council IELTS test registration center in Saudi Arabia, and we have trained British Council certified agents with us. So if you have questions, if you need some help, let us know. We're here to make sure that you succeed on your next exam. If you haven't downloaded our apps, make sure to do so. Academic IELTS Help app from your Play Store links to our website, aehelp.com, and our General IELTS Help app links to gieltshelp.com. So link the app to the web account for a really amazing learning experience. All right, everyone, you can get our books from Amazon. AE Helps Academic IELTS, GE Helps General IELTS. And you can see our schedule on our Instagram accounts, on our YouTube community board as well. So we post our live class schedule in several places. We have our schedule from January 30th today until February 6th. So today we have this class and one more, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no classes. And then on Wednesday, February the 3rd, I'm back with speaking part 1. And then we have classes all the way until the 6th. So I will post that schedule. Members, by the way, next week we will have a question and answer session at the end on Saturday. So make sure that you take note of any questions that you have this week so you can ask me next Saturday, all right? Hopefully everybody caught that. Okay, so this is a speaking part 2 class. However, I did promise Amrita yesterday, and I know a couple other members wanted this as well, to just go over the conclusion of our Task 2 essay from yesterday and give a little bit of advice on what you need to pay attention to write a good conclusion. So I'm going to do that right now. So just really quickly, I'm going to read the question, the essay, and then say a couple words about the conclusion. And you'll notice that the speaking part 2 for today will tie in somewhat to our yesterday's essay as well. So that'll be kind of useful and interesting for you. Now, keep note of this, that in the IELTS, it doesn't work that way. So the speaking isn't connected, unfortunately, or fortunately, to the writing task, okay? Here, I'm just making a connection so that it's more interesting, and it helps your learning even more. Okay, so this was our writing task 2 from the last couple days. In some areas of the US, a curfew is imposed in which teenagers are not allowed to be out of doors after a particular time at night unless they are accompanied by an adult. What is your opinion about this? Okay, so let's go from the introduction to the end. So introduction is hook, background, thesis. Controlling juvenile activities at certain times in the day has become necessary in particular regions in the U.S. Therefore, in some states and counties, a specific time at which juveniles are restricted from being outdoors through a set of laws and regulations has been mandated. This has a significant impact on teenagers and society. Okay, so notice the importance of the question. That will be a point to remember for the conclusion. Okay, importance of the question in the introduction. Although imposing a curfew on minors restricts their freedom, I believe that having such regulation not only discourages delinquency, but also encourages development. So there's my thesis. So the importance of the question and the thesis are two important sentences from the introduction for the conclusion. Hi, Carolina. Hi, honey. Hi, everyone. Okay. All right. So here we go. Although forcing adolescents to stay indoors after dusk limits their social activities with peers, it also restricts their involvement in risky and illegal behaviors, which can lead to social and physical harm. The rate of bad behaviors, such as drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and driving reckless, increases threefold during the night hours after 10 p.m. because of peer pressure at pubs, discos, and house parties. I saw a newscast that in New York, the delinquency rate among minors had been 400% higher after 10%, and since imposing curfew in 2018, this has dropped to less than half, thereby alleviating pressure on parents and the public. This is one of two reasons that I am in support of implementing a curfew for minors. Furthermore, by keeping teens at home after sunset, parents have more opportunities to have their children engage in productive behavior, which can lead to their mental and physical progression for a better adult life. In the 3 to 4 hours of the evening, when juveniles are only allowed out with adults, teens can spend time playing sports with their parents or working together on their studies. This leads to mutual respect and strong communication among family members, and in turn results in smart, confident, and successful young adults. In the same newscast I saw in New York teens, research showed that after 2018, the academic performance of 15 to 17-year-olds has improved by 20%. Okay, and then comes my conclusion. So, simply put, the conclusion is 3 sentences for the exam. Just give me 1 second here. Make this disappear so you can see this clearly. We always have these pop-ups going on here. All right, so here we go. So the conclusion is basically 3 sentences, okay? And in those 3 sentences, so 3 sentences, okay? Think about it this way. 1, key points restated with new wording. Okay. 2, authors, that's mine in this case, argument strengthened. Okay. So it's basically like paraphrase the thesis with strong words. Okay. And then 3rd is take-home message. And the take-home message is a piece of wisdom or advice that can be easily concluded or inferred from the information in the essay. Okay. Very importantly, students, for the conclusion, okay, you should remember a couple of points, okay? So, number one, a conclusion is not a summary, okay? A summary is simply concise information that is the same as the essay. Okay, that's task one, more or less, okay? So it's the same as the essay, but giving a piece of information that can be taken from the whole, okay? A conclusion gives a piece of wisdom and a strong subjective position. Okay, you should not do that in a summary. Okay. The other very common mistake that students make in the conclusion is they introduce new ideas which they do not explain or support in their essays. Okay, so never introduce new ideas in your conclusion which are not explained in your essay, are not supported. Okay? And this is very important for those of you who are going into university as well, okay? Professors, instructors are very strict on these points, all right? Okay, so these are the common mistakes. So it's very important that the conclusion is not simply a summary. It's very important that the conclusion gives value to your reader. It's very important that your conclusion does not introduce new ideas or new points where the reader's kind of like, so what's going on now? Why am I suddenly reading this new piece of information at the end of this essay? Okay, so that should not happen, all right? How are we so far? Any questions at this point? So Bahrat, Hani, Carolina, Sandeep, Devansh, any questions about the conclusion at this point? And it takes practice. You should review. Your conclusion is very important. It's the last piece of knowledge, information that you leave your audience. So extremely important. Anybody have any questions about the conclusion? And of course here, I'm talking specifically about the conclusion for a persuasive essay where you're persuading your audience, where you're convincing your reader of your thoughts or your opinions, okay? So if you have any questions, let me know. So here is my conclusion. Here are my points restated. So in conclusion, 2 strong reasons, okay? So already you can see here that I'm saying strong reasons, my key points, and 2 of them. To have curfews for minors in some places are less deviant activity, okay? So deviant activity is simply another way for my reader to think about delinquent behavior, and more productive growth. So better development, just another way, right? Children are growing, teenagers are still growing, if not so much physically, mentally for sure. So here, productive growth. And then here's my argument strengthened, okay? And already here, I'm kind of giving that feeling. I am therefore strongly, again, strongly, okay, in favor of such regulation. Very simple, okay? So one more time, telling the reader that, yeah, look, this is my position, okay? And then my take-home message is that it is important to look at not only the short-term negatives, but also the long-term positives of such legislation for youngsters. So this is my take-home message. Now, Notice my take-home message here. I'm basically telling the reader that, hey, we don't just look at the short-term negatives. What are those short-term negatives? Restricting teenagers' freedom and social activity. That's in my essay. Okay, so a person who's reading my work carefully understands what I mean by the short-term negatives, but also the long-term positives. And the long-term positives are clearly in my essay as well. You can see them right here. Okay, so this leads to mutual respect, communication, results in smart, confident, and successful young adults. Research showed that academic performance is improved by 20%. So here, when I say long-term positives of such legislation, that's clear for my reader. Okay, so everybody sees the conclusion and sees this key points, argument emphasized or strengthened, and then this take-home message, which is really connected to the essay. Is it clear for everyone? That's your goal. Okay, that's the aim of good writing, and that's what you do at the Band 9 Expert User of English level. Okay, Expert User of English level is equal to a person who has 90% GPA in their second year of university. It's not a native speaker. Okay, many native speakers would not get a Band 9 on the IELTS exam. Okay, IELTS is an English proficiency test, not an ESL test. It's really important to understand that. Okay. All right, Rashika says yes. Janil says yes. It's too bad Amrita's not here because it was Amrita that was asking about this, but hopefully she'll watch the lesson later, so it's fine. All right, so that's the conclusion. Okay. Hopefully everybody's clear now on that. If you do have any questions about the conclusion, you can always send me an email and I will happily answer any questions that you may have, okay? Obviously, and one of the questions I commonly get is, well, okay, but how do I do that? Well, you have to practice, right? You have to go back, review, revise, and it comes with practice, okay? Training your thinking, training your English. Okay, cool. So let's switch gears and let's get into speaking part 2. Remember that this is speaking now, so speak and repeat. Okay, so here we go, speaking part 2. All right, let's get into it. So you're done with your speaking part 1, and the examiner says to you, okay, that's the end of part 1. Now we will continue with part 2. For part 2, I will ask, or for part 2, here's a card with some questions because of COVID. They don't actually give you a card. They either slide a kind of like a little display where you can see it, or the card's actually already in front of you and they just tell you to turn it over. So they'll say, okay, there's a card in front of you with some questions. There's a note paper, a pencil. You will have 1 minute to look at the questions, think about your answers, and then you will have 2 minutes to speak. I will tell you when to start, when to stop. All right, your 1 minute preparation time begins now. Go ahead and turn over the card. Okay. Bakrat, I just saw what you wrote there. I actually emailed you back. Check your spam and your trash folders. You should have the answers. I sent you all of the answers back about 2 hours, 3 hours ago. Okay. So check it out. There's definitely not in my inbox. If I miss something, I'll check it later. All right. Okay, so Honey says they just slide the card. Yeah, it's different, Honey. In some places, they actually have the card pinned to like a little board, and then they slide the board. They don't even, and they ask you not to touch the card. So they pin it to like a little display board. Okay. All right, so here we go. You turn over the card, and then here it goes. Describe a good law in your country. Okay, so first things first, read that twice. Okay, just so you're super clear on it. Describe a good law in your country. So, for example, like a curfew for teenagers in some parts that they're not allowed to go out at some times in the night. Now, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different. because obviously we don't want to just repeat. And then you should say, what is the law? How did you learn about it? Whom does this law affect? Why is this a good law? And what would be the consequences of not having it? Okay. By the way, this was a former IELTS question, or there was a very I don't think maybe the exact same, but very similar question a few months ago. Okay. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare what you are going to say. So before you do anything, be absolutely sure about the questions, especially the statement. So the context here. Describe a good law in your country. Please don't talk about COVID. I'm sure way too many people would choose that. Okay. All right. So first, step 1 is you have to identify whether this is a person, place, event, object, or an idea. And then you can think more clearly about what it actually is and what you need to say. So what do you think this is? Describe a good law in your country. Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it an idea? Janelle with capital letters says, I think it's an idea. Okay. Oh, it says it's an object. Yeah, I don't think so, Ois. Object is tangible, Ois. We have to be able to touch it. Okay. Kashirsha and Devansh agree that it's an idea. So does Inaya. Yeah, it's definitely an idea primarily because a law is a construct. Okay, it's a human construct. We come up with it. We're like, okay, that should be or shouldn't be some type of an action, for example. Okay, but clearly it is mostly an idea. Okay, and when we're talking about an idea, what do we need to? Yeah, you're right, Nikhil. It's somewhat of an event as well. Okay, but it's a general event. It's not a specific event, right? So it's more of an idea. And when we're talking about an idea, what do we need to include in that? Okay. So Carolina says, an idea should always include its origin. Where did it come from, this idea? Yeah, its significance. Very good. So why is it important? Okay. Yeah, time of the ideas is the origin, Carolina. So manifestation is the requirements. Okay, so don't overcomplicate it, Carolina. Requirements. Okay, so origin, significance, requirements. Okay. And the results, absolutely. Execution and results. Execution is part of the requirements as well, okay? We can make that separate, but more or less it's requirements and then results, okay? So when we think about an idea, if you think about these points and you clearly say a few sentences about each of these points, you're going to have a really good speech. Okay, and certainly a certain type of a law will fall under this set of ideas or set of subtopics. Okay, all right. So that's, well, I should call this step 2 because step 1's reading the question carefully twice. Step 3 is what? Okay, and I'm always asking you because by the time you get to the IELTS, I really want these steps to be automatic. So step 1, read the card, read the topic sentence twice. Step 2, identify what it is. And, oh, by the way, what's the tense here? Yeah, we forgot that. I don't know if anybody caught that, but what's the tense? Okay, before we get into step 3, what tense are we using in this response? Okay. So Carolina says the next step is thinking of 2 or 3. Yeah, it's good. Abhishek says primarily we're focusing on the present tense. Yeah, which means present, progressive, present perfect. Okay. So let me ask you this. Would the past, present, future technique work here? So good or bad? So I know some of you have studied this technique of the past, present, future, where you talk about the past, you talk about the present, you talk about the future. Could you use that kind of a technique in this question? So talking about the past, the present, and the future. Abhishek says no. Carolina says no. Patricio says bad. I don't know. I think you could do a little bit. Okay, you'd have to be very careful on how you implement it. So, I mean, it's definitely mostly the present, but you could think about it in this way. Yeah, so you could think about it that way. Okay, Janiel says, yeah, I think it could be possible here. So yeah, you could talk about the past. So what was going on before this law was implemented back in 1995. You can talk about how this law has had an effect on the current society. And then you could say a little bit about what might happen in the future with this law as well. So a little bit, mostly present. I would say 70% in the present tense. But if you feel like, you want to give a bit of background and maybe a little bit of a future prediction regarding this law, that could be possible. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's do step 3. Here we go. Carolina very wisely said, think about 2 or 3 different laws. It would be very foolish to just go with the first law that comes into mind here, okay? So what are some laws? Give me some laws that you think. I have a couple of good ones here from Budapest that right away come to mind. I'm very visual, as many of you know. So what would be some laws that you can talk about? Okay, Abhishek says banning plastic bags. Sure, I think that's going to be a very popular response, but I'll put it up there. Okay, Nick Hill says driver's license over age 18. Okay, Janelle says not smoking in public places. Yeah. Fine of 500 rupees. Let's make it $50. Okay, a little bit more universal. Abhishek says helmet while riding a bike. Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good one as well. Ferdov says no sales of tobacco and alcohol for minors. Yeah, very good. Okay. All right. Nick Hill says fine and punishment for vandalizing, destruction of property or graffiti. Sure. Mandatory public education. Okay, sure. Grades 1 to 12. All right, beautiful. Look at all of you go. So Inaya says prohibiting driving under the influence of alcohol. Yeah, that's a very good one too. Okay. All right. Good. So when I'm making a choice, what should I think of? So what three factors should I consider when I'm making a choice? So when I'm thinking about which of my ideas, okay, so Abhishek says it should be easy to talk about. It should be original. So not everybody's talking about it. And what else? Ferdov says maybe it's universal. Yeah, that's pretty good too. Yeah, very good, Carolina. So Carolina says lots of information. Yeah, very good. That's an important one to remember as well. So lots of information. Easy to talk about. That kind of is the universal and easy vocabulary. Lots of information means that you don't run out of ideas. Okay, so here think about vocabulary, grammar. And then lots of information. Well, universal can go into either one of these for Dobbs. So universal, many experiences. Okay, sure. All right, perfect, good, clever, beautiful. Many of you are doing a fantastic job with these now. All right, so let me number these, okay? Banning plastic bags 1, driver's license 2 for the over the age of 18. No smoking in public places 3. Fine of $50. Helmet while riding a bike 4. No sales of alcohol or tobacco 5 for minors. Mandatory public school education for grades 1 to 12 6. So think about easy to talk about, vocabulary and grammar, original, not everybody is going to choose it, and lots of information, universal, many experiences. Which one of these do you think is a good one for this? Okay, many of you are choosing 3. I think that's a really good choice considering these. Ferdovs and Honey and Pryla are choosing 6. I think that's good too. I think the difference between 3 and 6 is the easy to talk about. I think mandatory public school education could be a little bit more challenging to discuss than no smoking. Okay. All right. Good. So we've got a couple of oddball answers, but notice how many of you are choosing 6 and 3. So I'm going to go with 3, okay? Let's go with 3. I think we can do a really good job with 3. So let's do 3. You can try 6 on your own. I encourage you to do so, okay? When you have some time to study on the weekend, try number 6. See how easy it is for you. See how well you can talk about it. See how fluent you are. One really good practice is to try a couple different choices and then compare and see which ones you were more fluent on, okay? I highly recommend doing that practice so that you can really figure out in the real test what you should be choosing, okay? So at home, while you practice, try a couple different choices and compare your fluency. Okay, that's really good practice. Okay, so now we're going to go with our notes. So that's the next step. Okay, useful notes. That's the following step in the 1 minute. All right, and your notes should be in the same order as not the question, but as the subtopic or the identification of the topic. So the origin, where does it come from, right? Okay, so what is the origin, the significance, the requirements, the execution, and the results? Okay, all right, so let's do this, all right? Let's do this. So useful notes, Let's talk about origin. So our choice here is no smoking in public places. Okay. Origin. I'm just putting origin here so you can remember the order. Okay, where does it come from? Give me some points here. I know, Janil, you're very optimistic. 1976. I know in Canada we were one of the first countries to do this, and it wasn't until 1998, I think. Some countries just did it, like in the last 10 years. So let's do 2010. Okay. It definitely wasn't the mid-19th century, so you want to be a little bit more accurate than that, okay? So the law of no smoking in public places was, yeah, definitely post-2000. It's quite new. I mean, just remember the movies that you watch. In the movies in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you see people smoking everywhere. They're all over the place, okay? So 2010, sure. So with an idea, you're not just thinking about the time for the origin, but you're also thinking about the reason. So why does it come from? Yeah, so Ferdov says in Russia it's 10 years ago. Yeah, I think Canada was one of the first places in 1998 or 99 to do it, okay? All right, 97, somewhere around there. Okay. So origin 2010, and where does the idea come from? So what do you think sparked this idea? Why would society start thinking about this? Okay, so Abhishek says lung cancer. Take it one step further. Okay. So lung cancer, yeah. Anybody knows what it's called when you're a non-smoker but you're breathing the smoke from other? Yeah, okay, so Rashika says passive smoking or secondhand smoking is good too. All right, any other reasons? So when you're thinking about this, it's really important to visualize. I would picture myself sitting in a restaurant. I'm sitting with my family, enjoying an expensive steak dinner. I'm paying a couple $100s to enjoy steak dinner with my family. And we're non-smokers. Of course, my children are non-smokers. And there are people smoking around me. So why would... Yeah, so very good. Anaya says encouraging children. Okay, and yeah, conflict. Because Shirsha says it's just disgusting. Yeah, so conflict and unfair, right? Simply put, it's unfair to those people who do not smoke being forced to inhale the smoke of those people who do, right? And of course, statistically, more people do not smoke, fortunately, than those who do smoke. So it's an unfairness to the majority, right? Okay. All right, that's the origin. Now, the next, we're going to the significance. So why is this law important then? Okay, so healthy society. Why else? So healthy society is probably one that I would not actually write down because I'm quite certain I'm going to remember that. But what else does it do? So if I'm thinking really quickly in this 1 minute, and now I'm thinking about, okay, so people do not smoke in public places, and therefore a lot of people are not inhaling this smoke. What's the significance? So a decrease in smoking rate, but what does that do? Okay, so these are the points that you're going to remember. Reduces lung cancer, we'll remember that. Okay. Okay, Pryla says kid-friendly spaces. Okay, so yeah, you're creating a better environment for society, right? And what does that, there we go, Ois, very clever. So Ois says better economy. Everybody sees that? So Ois was clever. He came up with that. So you're going to have more money in the economy because you're spending less on healthcare, and restaurants are performing better because people are going out more. They're enjoying the environment, right? Okay. So that's the significance of it. Absolutely. Okay. So what are the requirements? Okay. What do you need to make this into a reality? Okay. Think about it. Visualize again. So let's think about the requirements. So how do you implement a law like no smoking in public places? Okay. What's the requirement? What do you need for that? Okay. Obviously, you establish the law. And then what? Patricio says signals, signs. Yeah. So usually Patricio signs instead of signals. So signs, enforcing the law. Yeah. Now, fines, I wouldn't just say fines, because again, fines is something that you can remember. So fines for smokers and establishment. So you know what they did in Canada back in 1998 when they came up with this law is they didn't actually fine the people smoking so much, but they fined the place. So if somebody was caught smoking in a pub and it was obvious that they were smoking, they actually fined the pub owner. Can anybody guess how much? Just so you know how strict Canadians are about such laws that we feel is harmful for society. Can anybody guess how much the fine is in Canada in a restaurant for the restaurant owner or the pub owner if it's obvious that they're letting people smoke in the restaurant? So Ferdov says 10,000. PP says 10,000 as well. You're not far off. I'm not sure exactly what it is now, but last time I checked it was 5,000. For the owner. Okay. So still pretty heavy, $5,000 fine for the owner, right? Because it's the owner's responsibility to say, hey, there's no smoking here, get out. Okay, so $5,000 for the owner. Yeah, Neil's like, 5,000, right on. Okay, so there's enforcement, there's fines, public awareness, right? Advertisements, right? You're advertising. There's a new law. Okay, good. So what else do we have? Significance. We have origin. We have requirements. We have execution, and we have results. Okay, so let's go to results. Okay, so what are the outcomes? What kind of results can you think of here? All right, again, very quickly. So results. Yeah, so Carolina, very specific instructions like 10 meters away from public entrances. Absolutely. Okay. That would be requirements still. Okay, so what are the results? Okay, so reduce lung cancer. You're going to remember that. Probably wouldn't take a note on that. Okay. Good. Rashika says reducing the number of smokers. Now, Rashika, this is where you want to remember your right? Your quantitative language. 50% less smokers in 10 years. Less pressure on the healthcare system. Yeah, Just imagine how much better it is in Canada right now, interestingly, with this COVID, where COVID is attacking the respiratory system. And since Canada has a very low rate of smokers because of these laws that they brought in at the end of the 90s, COVID is actually, even though it's going through society similarly as other parts of the world, the death rate relatively is lower because people's lungs are stronger than those societies which are smoking. Nobody's really talked about this part of COVID's interaction with different societies, but it would be really interesting to see the statistics of mortality rates in societies where the rate of smoking is much higher. Anybody thought about that? Food for thought. Okay, so reduce lung cancer, 50% less smokers in 10 years, more people switch to cocaine for doves. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, fresh air. Okay, higher earnings for businesses. Okay, all right, so perhaps that as well. Okay, okay, good. So now, first sentence. Let's get going here. We really have to move, so I'm going to start typing here because we need this for our next class, everyone. So now is when we're going to really build on fluency. We have about 5 minutes to say our response, use our notes. So let's get rocking and rolling. So first sentence, a truly beneficial law which was introduced back in 2010 in Hungary is a ban on smoking tobacco in public places such as bars and restaurants. Okay, so that's my first sentence. Let's see your first sentences. And here, we're just going to have to go, go, go. So I'm going to go, go, go. You go, go, go. And then I will look at what you're writing, intermittently compare it, and you can compare to what I'm writing up here as well. So this would be my first sentence. A truly beneficial law, which was introduced back in 2010 in Hungary, is a ban on smoking tobacco in public places such as bars and restaurants. Okay, now here's my PPF. Okay, so prior to this law, people were constantly smoking indoors before, during, and after their meals and drinks, creating clouds of secondhand smoke, and not only discomforting non-smokers, but also causing an increase in diseases, namely lung cancer. This had led to a decline in revenue for many hospitality venues, as well as put strain on the healthcare system. Okay, so here I'm leading into my origins. Okay, all right, let's see. So Patricio says an exceptional law in Canada is to prohibit smoking tobacco in public places like schools and restaurants. Well, schools definitely. Yeah, I think that's been around for even much longer. Yeah, Inaya, on airplanes, that was a long time ago that they prohibited smoking. It's an international law now because that can lead to, of course, even more serious problems. But Inaya, I wouldn't mix that in, okay? Oh, it says one amazing legislation in Syria is not allowing smoking in public places for all ages, and it was launched in 2010. Good, OS. Okay. Bakrat says the prohibition of smoking cigarettes was introduced in 2010 in the public areas. Okay, very good. So everybody's on the right track. Pay attention to grammar. You want your first sentence to be very, very clear and accurate. Let's see some more writing from others as well. PP says a useful law that was implemented back in 2010 is the ban on public smoking in restaurants, bars, and schools. Yeah. Okay, very good. So this led to a decline in revenue for many hospitality venues, as well as put a strain on the healthcare system. It was therefore almost inevitable that the government and society mitigate this harmful behavior by banning the consumption of tobacco in public areas for the interest of the majority. Okay. And then here I'll go back and I'll check my notes. So what's going on? Lung cancer, passive secondhand smoke, significant healthy society, better environment, better economy. Okay, let's take some of those notes and now incorporate that into what I'm about to say. Okay, so through a massive campaign effort, a ton of advertising, and strict regulation in the form of fines between 2010 and now, the Hungarian government has successfully put an end to people lighting up in public spaces, especially indoor venues. Okay. Law officials were not only fining those who smoke $50 for breaking this law, but even more importantly, the venue owners who ignored this law are fined $5,000. As a result, the air is now fresh when families go out to enjoy a dinner at a restaurant. They no longer need to worry about their children breathing in second and smoke, or being negatively influenced by smokers or by seeing smokers. And restaurant owners are experiencing an increase in revenue. Okay, so just going off of my notes, right? Thinking about those results, all right? Abhishek says, not only does it create a problem for other individuals who are non-smokers, but also encourages children. Moreover, for the non-smokers, it creates passive inhalation and creates a problem in their lungs, namely lung cancer, and an increased chance of heart attack. Abhishek, careful with the word passive person. That has different meaning, okay? All right, yeah, malls, shops as well, absolutely. Okay, so now I go back and I want to check and make sure that I've answered all parts of my question so I don't forget about the card. What is the law? How did you learn about it? Okay, whom does this law affect? I have everything so far. Why is this a good law, and what would be the consequences of not having it? All right, so I'm going to give a little bit more about that. I feel that I can say a couple more just to kind of finish my ideas, and then if I have time, I can expand, right? So had this law not been introduced a decade ago, there would likely be even more problems with people's health, and eventually the healthcare infrastructure may become unsustainable. This could lead to dire results for the functioning of society. People could be left without treatment, and the economy could even collapse. Okay, so quite extreme. There we go. Here we are. So there's my entire part 2 response, everyone. I've run out of time. That was kind of the price of focusing on the conclusion of task 2 at the beginning, but it's there, and not to worry. We'll go through this one more time as a review at the beginning of next class, which will be speaking part 3, and that will be questions connected to this speaking part 2 response. So hang around. I'll be back in half an hour with speaking part 3, and speaking part 3 will be questions related to the topic of part 2. So we'll go through this response, we'll review it, and then we'll get into some more in-depth Q&A between you and me, and of course everybody else who's watching, because that class will be an all chat class, okay? Good writing, by the way, Rashika, Ois, everybody, Bakrat. It's good that you didn't give up, but you kept writing with me, okay? So working on fluency is great training. You're very welcome, Janiel, Abhishek, Natalie, Patricio, Nick Hill. Hang around, everyone. I will be back. Visit us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gltshelp.com for general. See you in half an hour. I'm Adrian, signing out for now. Bye.